Well, I think this is a very historic anniversary. I want to say congratulations to all the Federation members. It's been the backbone of conservation in this state, made Missouri the best conservation state in the nation. And that's simply because we've had a great citizen-based conservation group, Conservation Federation of Missouri. I started back in 1971. So it was a great 30 years that I had with the Federation, and then after that I worked for the foundation for several years after that. So it's been very, very much fun, enjoyed it all. It's been a great time to work with all these great conservationists over the years. Well, we took meetings with every possible group and talked to all of our affiliates, of course, and got them enthused about carrying petitions and everything. And we kind of divided up the state into the different congressional districts. And I'd work some and Ed would work some, and we coordinated that. But we had so many meetings, I can imagine how many we had. And it was just a lot of fun to go around and talk to the group and see how excited they were about this program. Well, the challenges were just finding enough time to get around, you know. It was it's a big project to get a petition passed in this state. And we worked shopping centers and go to every event we possibly could and set up booths and get signatures, big sports shows and everything. In front of Walmarts, we had many people involved that would go to the state fair, and we'd line up workers for all the different fairs. So it was quite a project. Well, we had the University of Missouri helped with a funding study. And they came out with the idea that a penny tax on soft drinks would be an ideal way. And we turned it over to a committee of the Federation to write that. The problem was we left out what they call an enacting clause. And because that enacting clause wasn't in there, after we'd obtained the signatures and done all the hard work, why, it was thrown out because we didn't have that enacting clause. And when we came back and looked at it, we realized that the soda pop industry had quite a bit of money, and they were going to put up a tough fight. And it also had other disadvantages with the possibility of inflation and everything. So at that time we reconsidered and decided to go with the 1/8 cent conservation sales tax. Oh, there were wilderness issues, establishing the wilderness areas in Missouri, getting the first pollution legislation through the legislature. That was done. Parks legislation, which came later, of course, when we get to the 1/10 cent for the state parks and soil conservation. And those were all issues. There were a great many issues related to wildlife, and legislature seemed to always want to get in on the act, but since we had such a good science-based conservation department, we were always able to keep those issues at bay. I remember one funny incident when Ed Stegner was a very impressive person. He's quite tall, and we went over to the legislature, and they had a little room down in the basement where you could get coffee and everything, and going up on the elevator, and we got on the elevator, and Ed was over there so much. I guess there was a young freshman legislator who didn't know, and when we got on, he looked up at Ed and said, "Well, hi, Senator," and Ed didn't say a thing all the way up. He kind of nudged me, "Don't say anything, let him think that." So Ed was very well known throughout the Capitol, and some of the freshmen thought he was one of the senators. So that was kind of funny, I thought. There were a lot of them. I remember one of So, some of them can't tell very well. But stayed down in St. Louis for a while during the petition drive, getting signatures. And I stayed in with Cy Seiler, who was a well-known conservationist in St. Louis. And we had a couple funny incidents. One of them, I accidentally let his dog out, and he was in heat, and the neighbor's dog got in with him. But those were some of the problems. We had another, one of our petition carriers was working at a store, and a lady came out, and just as he turned around, she got him by the cart right in the stomach, bowled him over. So we had a lot of funny things to tell about. Well, that was, we were old school in those days. We'd get the galleys and paste them up, by hand rather than digital like they do today. And we get stories from all over. We'd have our chapter send in what they were doing. We'd do items on our new directors, do items from the National Wildlife Federation, from the Missouri Department of Conservation. We'd get articles. We have a lot of good writers in this state, outdoor writers. They'd submit things from time to time. And we had a good relationship with the department, so they helped us with the photographic stuff. So it was a different time back then. We sent the issue to every member, well over 20,000 back then. Main purpose is still to bring as many diverse groups together as we can, to be a united force, and that's what's made Missouri the best conservation state in the nation. That we have the best citizen base, and that's given us the power. We have a science-based conservation department, which proved itself over 40 years, and then we got the expanded funding because of that 40 years, and now we're up to 85, 86 years with the Federation, and the new Department of Conservation came the next year too. I would urge the Federation to continue to promote good, strong, science-based conservation, fish, forest, and wildlife, and continue to support the Federation. Get as many new members as we can, because we're going to need it in the future. Happy anniversary, Conservation Federation of Missouri. Keep up the good work.